Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to the Once an Orphan podcast. I'm Jasmine, and joining me today is a fellow adoptee. You know, in church we say, "This is my sister in Christ, this is my sister in Christ, and my sister in adoption." So I am excited today to be speaking with this beautiful young lady. We met in Chicago
Yes.
at the second annual Black Adoptees meetup, but we really didn't have the chance to really talk because it was a busy time and we were just loving on each other and gathering, and so we sort of missed each other, but we did speak briefly a couple of weeks ago. And so I want you all to say hello to, let me make sure I get this right, because as we know, in adoption your names can be changed.
It is Alicia Sharon Williams, currently married name Williams. Um, but my own parents didn't even agree on how to say it. So I will answer to Alicia or Alicia.
Okay, great. Now let's go to when you found out you were adopted.
Ooh, not very long ago. Not long ago at all. I am very proud to say I am 59 years old, and I only found out a short while ago in 2019 at the age of 53.
At the age of 53,
Mm-hmm.
you learned you were adopted.
Just 5 minutes ago.
53. So I thought when I spoke to Janine right before Chicago that that was the latest anyone would find out. She found out when she was 46. And now you're coming and you're saying you found out at 53.
I found out at 53.
How did you find out you were adopted?
Well, the family that I was raised with had a very strong lineage. My father's family um, came over to the United States from the island of Madagascar. They were known as freemen. They did not have a history of enslavement, and so they were very proud of that history. My father's great great grandfather was of German descent, so the family name had actually changed as it was Benedetto and Benedetti, and then it became Bennett as they actually married into our blackness. So they had a very strong history, and over 122, 25 consecutive Bennett family reunions are held. So in the Bennett family, the moment there's a new baby, new birth, we all go into our collective ancestry DNA tree and we add our children. So I've always been familiar with ancestry DNA, and I'm always very proud of that history and had crests and seals and all of those things.
Hmm.
And then just as strong and rich was my mother's family, who were family of slaves and slave owners, and they're Washingtons, and they did find through tracing that they were descendants of George Washington's brother. And so the Washington name is the true Washington name. And so they were just as proud of that history as well. So in 2018, my oldest daughter, bought me an Ancestry DNA kit for Christmas, really to solidify and enrich details, finding out the paths and the ancestry and where people lived and what parts of Africa and what parts of Madagascar were we from. And that is how I came by the kit. There was no other reason. There was no secret agenda. I got it for Christmas. I have a habit of not doing gifts right away, holding on to gift cards, and sometimes they expire. So I was very diligent in making sure that I wanted to get this sent in so that I could let my daughter know that, I had this history information. I sent it in February of 2019. I got my email April 9th, popped it open, saw that my um, DNA summary was available online. I was at work, didn't even try to go to it right away because I know everything.
Right, right.
you know, I knew there was going to take some time to unfold all of the details, and I know everything. Um, and that evening, laying in bed on my cell phone, just looking at it, I pulled it up and I had 1,300 matches, and several of them I didn't even know what centimorgans were at the time. First cousins and very, very close matches. Several first cousins. Six of whom were very close. A high percentage of connection. Yet, I don't know these. Wait, excuse me?
Right.
Something's not right.
Right.
I know all of my first cousins. I know my family history. I know my where everyone's from. I know all of the family names. I know grandparents' names, great grandparents' names. Something is wrong. And I closed the kit, went back in the morning when I got on my computer, looked at it a little bit deeper when I had a big full view and not just on my cell phone looking at, columns.
Right.
And something was definitely wrong. These were not my people. The kit was wrong. Ancestry DNA had messed up.
Right.
You have sent me the wrong data. And I work in healthcare currently, and I was like, no, this is a breach of confidentiality.
Wow.
You have mixed up someone's DNA. And I fired off a very nasty letter to Ancestry DNA through the support window saying, I don't know how you function. I don't know how you do things. You have sent me the wrong kit. I am looking at people's personal information. I am looking at people's death dates and birth dates, and this is not my family. I need you to correct this immediately. Remove this information from my account. These are not my people.
What? Did you really?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh my God.
There was nothing in that moment that you could have convinced me that this DNA was mine. It was not mine. It was a mistake. And it took a day, maybe 24 hours. I think the day after I got a response, a very general form type of response that told me, oh, other people have done this too, because you have a form letter. And they assured me that they do not make mistakes like that, that the DNA, if this is the DNA I submitted, then this is the DNA result. It is closely matched, it is closely tracked, and it is coded. And these are, in fact, my ancestors. And I closed it, said, this is bogus. Um, did not, I felt like my daughter had wasted her money and closed it up and set it away in cyberspace for several weeks.
You,
It wasn't me.
I can't even believe it. Well, okay, so in between the time that you closed it up and said, this is not me, all of this information is incorrect, these people don't know what they're doing, they have mixed my DNA with someone else's, all of this is wrong. Then weeks go by, you reopen it, but what was going through your mind in that time period? Because I would have been losing it.
I I kept opening back up and glancing, thinking that they're going to change it. That I'm going to open it today and I'm going to see family names that I recognize, that they're going to fix it. And so I'd open it, look at it, they hadn't fixed it, and I said, oh my God, and close it. And I would tell people, I've got my DNA and it's not matching. I don't know who these people are. Um, so that was kind of compartmentalized. What was going on in my daily life, and as I went back through the what ifs, I started recollecting a lot of the feelings and the information that I had had my entire life. And there was that big, but what if? And then I started recollecting all the things that never made sense in my life. And things that had always bothered me, but had always been explained and excused away. And although the math didn't math and 2 plus 2 didn't add up, I was a very obedient and very disciplined child. And even as an adult, and my mother that raised me was still alive at this time. She was 93 at the time. I was 53. She was 93. And so, be out of respect for her, I couldn't ask her anything. But what I started remembering were things like I've never seen my baby pictures. I've never seen my birth certificate. The the birth certificate that starts the day I was born.
Right.
I'd seen my birth certificate through school, and because I've been married and I've had to use it, and I'm an adult. But I was very aware that my birth certificate was dated and stamped in 1968, and I was born in 1966. That had always been explained to me as the fact that my parents were very embarrassed that they were not married when I was conceived, and that they got married afterwards. And at that time,
Here we go with the lies, but go ahead.
at that time, you if you were born out of wedlock, the father had to go through a formal adoption process to change your name. And I knew that to be true because my oldest daughter, my husband and I, my father-in-law ended up passing away right before our wedding, and we canceled it. And so our daughter was born before we got married. And my husband had to do that as well. So I never doubted their story. Mommy and Daddy got married after I was born. They had to do this formal adoption process to change my name. That's how my name got changed. And that's why it was stamped 1968. I'd never seen anything prior to that. So I had never seen a name change. I was never told that I could have ever been Alicia Washington, which would have been my mother's maiden name. I've always been Alicia Bennett. So those details were left out of the story, but that was how it was packaged. So I had never seen my original birth certificate. I had never ever seen pictures of newborn Alicia, 2 month old, 6 month old, first teeth, first hair. Never saw those. I'd seen them of my brother, but I'd never seen them of me. Mine kind of started around 18 months to 2 years. Every picture I'd ever seen, I was the same age group. And that bothered me, but it was explained. We had all of our pictures in one location, and the basement flooded, and all the pictures were destroyed. We lost them in moving. We had packed them up, and the box never made it to our location when we moved from Ann Arbor to Grass Lake. And we did have a lot of items that disappeared in the transit. So it was natural.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that did not show up. There were very convenient explanations on how these things had occurred, why I had never seen me. I had never heard newborn stories of me. I'd never heard my mother talk about pregnancy. Not only has she never talked about hers, she did not participate in mine. It was something that was like it was a foreign concept to her. So thinking about these things and thinking about the what ifs and having this kit that's sitting here that's telling me that there's people out here. What had transpired in the meantime was my youngest daughter was pregnant at the time. She was about to give birth to her first daughter, and she was still experiencing morning sickness in her third trimester, which is very unusual.
Right.
And we are very devout Christians, and my mother and I go to the same church, and she is the mother of our church, being her age. And so she kind of takes stock of every little detail of a church service. And so she had called and was inquiring on why my daughter wasn't in church. And I was explaining to her that she's still sick. She's still having morning sickness. The doctors are a little bit concerned. They've changed the medication, and so she stayed home today. But in talking to her, it was like a foreign concept. She was asking me too many questions about what the morning sickness felt like. What was she experiencing? And is the baby okay? And I was like, no, but the baby is fine. The fetal movement is great. She's still, I mean, the butterflies are just off the chart, and the baby's kicking, and she said, butterflies? Yeah, yeah, Mom.
Don't you know
that
this, right?
that feel. I mean, they're
Yeah,
like strong. How could you forget that? No woman ever
right,
forgets that.
right.
And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was a Sunday afternoon. My husband is an avid race car fan, and Sunday afternoons he watches his races. But the one thing that I never do when I'm talking to my mother, because she always had narcissistic tendencies, and I recognized that and I accepted that. That's just mom. I never speak to mother unless I'm on speakerphone. I kind of have to have a witness
Right.
to the way this conversation is going to go left. The things that she's going to say or accuse me of. And I learned very early on about gaslighting. I
Yes.
learned very early on about narcissistic behavior. I grew up in Ann Arbor, and most kids kind of go to therapy in Ann Arbor. It's a clinical city, you know. And so I've gone to therapy my entire life. So I knew about these things, and it accepted those um, deficiencies in my mom. This was just her character, you know. Actually prayed that these things would not be passed on to me. I hope I don't become this type of person. I hope I don't just belittle my children and talk about, and all those things. So I never spoke to my mom unless I was on speakerphone. And that particular day, the conversation had gone on so long about her asking about my daughter's pregnancy that my husband just, he was upset. We were disturbing him, and he snapped. And he turned around, and although we were on the bed, he slammed his hand down on the bed, and he was like, hang up. Hang up right now. I'm sick of this conversation. I'm sick of you talking to her. You know that this woman is not your mother. You need to hang up with her right now. You need to stop playing around. Get up off the pot. Dig into your ancestry DNA kit and find your real people.
Did she hear this?
She hears it, but
Okay.
it's not direct. It don't have nothing to do with her. She hears it, but she doesn't hear it.
Oh, wow.
What? Honey,
Right.
what? What?
Oh, okay. So hold on, because in this time you had to come to the realization that I am a I'm adopted. This
Not that moment.
no.
No. Not that moment. That moment, my husband shocked me. That moment, and we're married 35 years at this point.
Oh my God.
That moment, I got off the phone and I'm dating myself. I turned into Laura Petrie, if you remember the Mary Tyler Moore show, and I'm talking to my husband and I'm going, what are you talking about? What do you mean? How could you say that? And he's like, that I know good and well that woman is not your mother, and so do you. And I'm like, what are you saying? And he's coming back to our dating years and like, I I knew she wasn't your mother. I told you I asked you over and over, and I was like, but honey,
Ah,
the things that you said to me were like, is that really your mom? And I'd say, yeah. And he's like, really? And I'd go, yeah, it's my mom. And he's like, you're nothing like your mom. You don't look like your mom. You don't act like your mom. Are you sure? And he would say stuff, but that's kind of that disconnect that I'm not really like her.
right.
Not the fact that you didn't think she was my mom. That I never heard. My thought process never heard him say it like he said it that day. And that day, he broke something.
Mm.
It was like finding a bottle that washed up on the beach, and you've had this note and you've had this bottle, and you said that you're never going to open it. And that day it fell off the shelf and broke. And I had to read what was inside for the first time.
Are you kidding me? Okay, so with this, you and mom are having a moment, your husband snaps. He's like telling you, Alicia, you know this is not your mother. Why are you playing these games with her? You're like, what are you talking about? At what point did you start to realize I'm adopted?
I could not sleep that night. I was tearful, upset, upset at him that he could be right. Everything that didn't make sense was just spinning through my head. I got up the next morning and I usually take the highway to get to work. It's only a couple of exits. I usually take the highway just out of speed. And I got on the highway and I couldn't get off the highway. I started heading towards Detroit. All I knew was I needed to go back to what I knew as my beginning. I had to go back as far as I could. And I didn't know anything other than 1968. There had to have been some type of adoption process to change my name. And so I'll start there. So while I'm driving, and I live about 80 miles from Detroit, while I'm driving, I start calling the circuit courts in the Detroit area. So for those of you who are not from Detroit, there's Wayne County, there's Oakland County, and there's Macomb County. The city of Detroit is actually in Wayne County. But for those that don't live in Detroit, we call Redford, Inkster, Birmingham, Bloomfield, we call that all Detroit, even though it's different sub-cities of Detroit and it's different counties. So I didn't know what county I was born in. I didn't know what hospital I was born in. I didn't have that information on the birth certificate I'd ever seen. So I was calling Wayne County, Macomb County, and Oakland County trying to get some information just to find out where I needed to head to, because I was heading to
Right,
Detroit.
right.
In that moment, I'm coming. I'm not turning this car around until I know something. And the first county, I got a voicemail, couldn't get through. The second county, I left a message, explained what I needed. The third county was Wayne County. I called Wayne County and I was told, I can't give you this information over the phone. You have to petition for it. You can go online, fill out the application, yada, yada, yada. And I explained I'm willing to do all of that. I just need to know where to start. And she said, she explained that once you petition with Wayne County, if we don't have anything, you don't get charged and you will get a result that says no findings. That's how you know you're not Wayne County. Well, that wasn't quite good enough.
Right.
But Oakland County, no, Macomb County called me back. And I explained to him, I'm coming to Detroit. I'm driving. I'm driving from Jackson, Michigan. I need some information. I'm trying to find my original birth certificate. I'm trying to find out some information about a name change that occurred in my life and where would I start. And he did explain the same thing. You have to petition this. And I said, but I just need to know which county to go to. Can you just provide that? And so he looked it up and he said, you're not in my county. But let me check another system because I do have access to the state records and at least I can tell you where to go. So he did confirm that I needed to go to Wayne County. So I kept on going to Wayne County. I usually, dress pretty professionally. I had on a suit, I wear a lanyard, and I wear a badge. I got to the courthouse and didn't even know what side of the building to go in through. So I went in behind another car, and it was a gate that goes up, and I just kept on going right behind the other car. So I made it
Get
in.
on in here, right?
I'm gonna get on in here. I was like, when you throw me out, that's fine, but at least I'm
Right.
gonna ask some
But I'm gonna
questions.
be in. Exactly.
Um, and they stopped me and they asked me where did I need to go. I had a badge. They didn't even look at the badge. And they just assumed, I guess my badge or my attire gave them the impression that I was either a caseworker or something like that. And so they asked me where I needed to go. And I said, let's start it post adoption. And he explained how to get there. And I had to go back out, go around, go to this other building. And I went. I went. Um, Now, this is April No, this is June because April was when I got my results. So between April and June, I didn't do anything but deny that DNA. So in June, I finally get in the car and go. Now, June of 2019, we were shut down. We were skeleton crew operating because of COVID. So I was not supposed to be in the building.
So wait, this was 2019 because COVID.
Yes,
Really?
yes, yes.
Okay.
This is this is things are shut down, skeleton crew. We are still at that point of, are we open? Are we closed? What county had all of these things? And so the court building that I was at was skeleton crew only. I mean, hallways were desolate, offices were closed, and there were maybe one person per department that were operating. So I got to the hallway that was considered the adoption, post-adoption, foster care. All of that was being handled there according to the signage, but I didn't see anybody. What I heard was what sounded like a parental custodial visit. I heard two people that clearly were parents of this child bickering and arguing over a child in a room, and they were very negative with each other. So it wasn't a situation that I could knock on the door. I did not want to interrupt them. I knew there was somebody in there mediating with them, and so I had to sit down in this hallway on this bench and wait, and at the same time hear this very negative custodial visit of a child that was not in either one of these parents' custody. That was clear. And that was really hurting. It
Yeah.
was really hitting home with me
Hmm.
because was that ever me?
Right. All the questions start to come. Yeah.
It this is my building.
Yeah.
What what happened? How I don't know how I got here.
Right.
I don't know if my parents were abusers. I don't know. And this is what I'm hearing. And I was sitting on this bench, and it was a wooden bench with iron rails. It was like one of the old outside kind of park bench ones.
I see it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And my knee is just shaking because out of anxiety, out of uncomfortability of hearing and witnessing this and waiting for someone to come out and acknowledge me. And I was shaking so much that the wooden bench started going, and that's what caught her attention. And I literally can't stop my legs from shaking right now. So the woman came out and was shocked that I had made it into the building. How did you get here? Why are you here? Who let you in here? And I was disregarding her questions. And I said, I'm sorry, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but they did let me in. And I'm trying to find out some information about possibly my birth and possibly my adoption. And she was a sister, a beautiful woman of color, but she immediately went into her soul sister role of neck rolling and eye popping, and she's like, I don't know who let you in here. You can't come up in here like this. I can't give you information like that. Are you the one that called me on the phone? Well, I told you you had to petition this, and this. And Laura Petrie kicked it back in, and I was like, you don't understand.
Oh my God.
I don't know anything. I don't know where I was born. I don't know if I'm adopted. I don't know if my parents are my parents. I don't know anything. I just need to know, is there a reason for me to petition? Before you have me fill out all this paperwork, is there a reason? Because if there's no reason and everything my parents ever said was true, I can walk back out of this door, go on back and go back to work. But if there's a reason, I will start the process. So that finally clicked in. Okay, well, let me at least let you understand that amount. So she went, I gave her my ID. I had the wherewithal to bring the birth certificate that I did have with me. And so she took it into her office, but then she very quickly came back out and she was back. I can't do this like this. I can't give you this information. And tears are flowing at this point.
Yeah.
I'm crying at this point. And she finally really looks at me and finally says, you don't know anything about this? You don't. And I said, I don't know anything. I said, I got an Ancestry DNA kit that's telling me that my parents are not my parents. I have a birth certificate that was stamped, signed, sealed, and delivered of 1968. I just need to know, is there a reason for me to be here? Do you have anything? And so she goes back in and she comes out with a manila folder, like an old card catalog folder that was so aged and yellowed that it was pretty much close to this manila envelope. And it folds down and it had all of this stuff. And it was very much like what you got at the library when you used to check out books. And she's waving it in the air and she says, well, Sharon, the good thing is the adoption agency that you were placed with has closed down and you'll be able to get all of your information from Lansing. Wait. No, Sharon is not my name. Sharon is my middle name. My name is Alicia Sharon. You, once again, this ain't me. You brought the wrong file. And she keeps on talking. No, Sharon, the good thing is once you petition, you'll be able to get everything that you need. I think you'll find all the answers. And I'm like, no, my name is not Sharon, but that's my middle name. Are you transposing something? And she said, Sharon. And then I was like, wait. Is that me? Is that me in your hand? That moment, I am in this woman's hand. The information, the birth name, the who the parents are, the where I was placed, and you can't give it to me? You have it.
Right.
And you can't give it to me? You can't read it? You can't make a copy?
Right.
All I could think was, can I bum rush this woman and knock her down? I was like, can I hit her can I Tanya Harding the back of her knee? Can I? I was thinking violence. What can I do to get this document? I was trying to figure out how to get in her office, and then I looked in the office and it's stacked, piled and piled and piled. And so I was like, well, can you write this down? I was like, I just want, I'm trying to look over at desk. I'm trying to see anything. And she's flipping things over and I'm telling her, I said, I need more. Are you telling me that Frank Bennett and Willa Mae Washington are not the parents listed on that paper? Are you telling me that I was in foster care? I don't know what that means. I can't. I know what it is for other people.
Yeah.
I have two adopted children. I have two adopted children that we have adopted from foster care. I understand how it goes. I was there. I participated. My kids know who their parents are. They know the process that we went through. They know the story of their adoption. How are you telling me I was in foster care and it didn't go this way? There the idea that there was a different way that you could sneak this by somebody. And I walked out with the only piece of information was that Frank and Willa adopted me in 1968 from foster care, and that the name of the fostering agency that I was placed with. And in telling her I don't even know where I was born at, she actually had a window view of Henry Ford Hospital, and it was one of the older buildings, and it used to be named something else, and she was able to say, "You were born right there." And I went back out. I got in my car. I sat down. Now, mind you, my husband didn't know that I didn't go to work.
Right.
Nobody knew that I came to Detroit. Um, and I called my husband and didn't say anything. And he's kind of going, "Yeah, Liz, Alicia, babe."
Right.
And all I could say was, they lied. They lied. My whole life is a lie. And he's like, "Where are you?" I said, "I came to Detroit." "You what?" I said, "I'm in Detroit. I'm at the adoption agency." And they lied. And I kept saying it louder and louder until I was screaming and banging on the horn of my car, screaming, "They lied. They all lied. They lied. They've lied my whole life. They've lied." And I didn't know how I was going to drive home.
Yeah. You're filled with emotions. You lived 53 years just to find out on your own because your adoptive mother still couldn't tell you the truth. You find out at 53,
Yeah.
she's not my birth mother.
Yeah. And from the very next day, when I showed up at work, I walked in with a second monitor, my work monitor, and my research monitor. I closed my door. I didn't talk to any of my coworkers. I became Carmen Sandiego. I became I Spy Private Eye. I became Columbo.
Yep.
I I I got out that ancestry DNA kit, and I did everything that I now know every clinician says don't do.
Right.
I emailed everybody. I accused everybody. I called everybody. I text everybody on that Ancestry DNA list. They all got the letter. "This is who I am. This is what I found out. It says you're my cousin. Do you know how we're connected?" I called all of my first cousins that I was raised with. "Did you know? You
Right.
knew? You knew too? And you knew. And you never told me. As much as this family talks,
Right.
y'all couldn't spill those beans. As much as we tell everybody's business, y'all couldn't spill those beans. Y'all knew and never thought to even ask, 'Hey, how'd you turn out? Are you okay? What did you?'"
So everybody
And
knew. Everybody was just lying. Everybody just kept it to themselves.
everybody kept it to themselves. Me and my brother were the youngest of the first cousins by far. There was a big gap. So all of my first cousins are more like my aunts and uncles. Okay, so I was raised respecting them and them carrying me and Frankie around like we were, like we were their little brothers and sisters and their little toys. And they would take us to the mall to get girls and boys and stuff like that because we were the youngest. So these were not children that were just above me that didn't have a right to tell me. These were people that were pretty much adults most of my life.
And you and your brother both adopted.
I figured that out. That we were both. I did ask that at the adoption agency because I said, and I have a brother. In my Laura Petrie spiel, I was like, and I have a brother, and he's 2 years younger. Is he adopted? And she's like, I don't know anything about your brother, but in 1968, you only had one brother noted, and he was 11 years older than you. So, and my brother I was raised with was born in 1968 either. So if we were biologically connected, he would have been on there. So that told me he was adopted also. So, mind you, while I'm digging and investigating and discovering people and finding people, all of my ancestry DNA was all one-sided. It was all my father's side of the family. There was, we had to go back a ways to start finding my maternal side of the family. So I found my father's side of the family very quickly. Um, and that was, and at the same time, I'm getting information from the state and I'm getting non-identifiable information, which was very skewed and creatively written to increase my chances of adoption.
Right.
Um, and then things even like I never understood how my husband and I are both born in February. And so graduation, when we graduated from high school, how because of the timing of birthdays, how he had turned 19 when he graduated, but I was 17 when I graduated. So like little things like that, like is my birthday even correct?
What?
Because like there was this year that somewhere got skewed in my memory very early on that all of a sudden I was like in a different grade and it's like how could I have started school at 5 with a February birthday and graduated at the age of 17 when my husband started school at 5 with a February birthday and he had already turned 19. And we're like, all those little things that were like, these people did some serious orchestrating.
Right, exactly. And I mean, you do the work that they put in just to change one's identity, just to change the narrative, just to
Yeah,
create this whole big lie.
yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, so in discovering and searching, I just unearthed more and more questions. Like now I don't know what my name is. I don't know when my birthday is. I no longer know my true nationality anymore. I'm no longer part Dominican and from the island of Madagascar and from the family of slaves. I'm no longer these people. So, identity is just being fractured every single day because everything that I'd grown up knowing now is a false narrative. And so I was losing myself every day.
That every day. Yeah.
And the more I found out that wasn't true, the less I knew about me.
Exactly. Yep.
And I was fetal curled up in the bed, crying myself to sleep. And I'm telling you, my husband has some very absorbent shoulders.
Yeah.
He was to the point of looking for hospitals to place me at because he didn't know how to bring me out of this. He didn't know when I would come out of this. He didn't know if, and I didn't know, if the information that I would find would destroy me further or put me back together. Because the pieces that I was unearthing and the pieces that I was discovering was that my biological mother was 14, that my biological father was 34, that he was my grandmother's, some said husband, some said boyfriend, but he was a father figure to my mother. So the narrative was it was an incestual rape, possibly, that my father was convicted of, served prison for, did know about me, did claim me. My mother had to take the stand and point the finger and say, yes, this is the man that impregnated me. And he actually left and was transported to prison 2 days after my birthday, subsequently to the city of Jackson, where I lived, where I passed the prison every time I went to church, where he would have been housed. Not at the time I lived there, but knowing that we were in this parallel universe.
Absolutely. Alicia, you just, um, I even feel your pain because what you just uncovered and what you just shared, I'm like, wait, what? Because again, when we had our phone conversation, we didn't get into the nitty gritty of the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a 20-year age gap, and then you realize your mother was a victim by your possible grandfather or step grandfather. Just so many complexities in this whole story.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to deal with this
Yeah.
knowing that you, as an adoptive mother, shared their story with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good, the bad, and the ugly. My kids know exactly where their mother was and all the good and all the trauma and all the bad and and we dealt with that and we prayed for her and and we
Yes.
openly dealt with that. But to then process, am I a child of rape? Am I a child of incest? You know, and then realizing my mother's only 14 years older than me, and then speeding up thinking, I have a chance to find her. She's got to be alive.
Right.
She's only 14 years older than me. And then putting this other box on a shelf. I hate this man. What he violated this child who was not capable, so now I have this empathetic image of my mom that she's just a baby girl who's now pregnant. And I'm bonding with the image of when I find her, all is forgiven. And I understand why you gave me up. And of course you couldn't keep me at 14. And then the image that, how dare you violate this girl? You're supposed to be with her mother. And so all of these things, I'm developing this love for this woman I haven't met and found, this hatred for this man that created me out of this wrong act, and finding the people who are trying to piece together the story, but not finding the evidences until one of my first cousins on the Ancestry DNA, the number one cousin, the very closest cousin, and people don't, that have had Ancestry DNA, they don't stay on it like I'm staying on it at this time in my life.
Yep.
So she hadn't answered the text, she hadn't responded to the email, and I literally just Googled her name, and I received a white pages listing of possible phone numbers and possible landlines, and I wrote them all down, and I think there were 6 or 7 of them, and I had some friends who were in law enforcement. I had some friends that were in legal. I had DNA search angels. So I had been given a list of documents that had my father's criminal record. I knew every car he had owned, every license, every telephone that went through Ma Bell and AT&T. Anything that he had to register for, I had, and it was this thick. And I had all this data on him. I had his um, closest known relatives. I had next door neighbors' names and addresses. I knew every house that he had ever rented. I had his car registrations. I had all of this information. So I have a wall of push pins like a CSI agent leading me.
Right.
And so I had a list of names of people that just kept popping up over and over and over. And I had notebooks and I was circling these names. This person stayed connected at this address. This person was a co-signer on this car. This person shared the same phone number at this time with this person. So I'm putting together the pieces, but but I'm doing this on my own. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm very inexperienced in it, but there's so much evidence.
Right.
So one day, just out of a pure Google search, that first cousin match popped up, and I got 6 phone numbers, and I called them, and phone number 5, someone answered. And I immediately start explaining, I know you don't know me. I'm sorry to intrude on your life. The Ancestry DNA script.
Of course.
But we have matched on Ancestry DNA as first cousins. And, I'm hoping that maybe you can help me find what I believe are my biological parents. And if you have any information, anything you can help me with. And so this woman very skeptically, how did you get my number?
Of course.
you know. And I said, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I Googled you.
Yeah.
And she's older than I am. And so the concept that my phone number is coming up on Google,
Right.
what had taken her aback a little bit. And so she's asking me all of these questions, and I'm telling her what I do know. I do know this, that my mother was 14, that my father was 34, that he lived in Detroit, that he lived on this street, and I do have his name. And and so that's how the Felton name was connected. And so she's asking me all these questions. I need to verify this is legit, that this isn't a scam, and that, and finally I start hearing other people in the background, and she puts her mother on the phone, and she's narrating what I'm saying. And her mother gets on the phone, and I guess I've given enough information that she's convinced that I'm at least legit.
Right.
And I'm explaining to her that I believe that I am Herman Felton's daughter. And could you please tell me how you're connected to Herman Felton? Your daughter comes up as my first cousin match, and she explains that that's her brother. And she says, baby, if you say you're Herman's daughter, then you're going to be my niece. Because my brother was a Rolling Stone, and he has several kids, and most of them we have not met. And if you say the DNA says you're his daughter, then that's good enough for me. When are you going to come meet me? Now I'm the one going, wait.
Right.
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going, hold up, lady. um, and she tells me, if there's anybody that knows the details, it's my other brother. And I'm going to give you his number, because those two were thick as thieves. That was her terminology. And she gave me the phone number to my uncle in Detroit. And I got off the phone with her and immediately called him, told him the entire spiel over again, that I believe I'm Herman's daughter, that I've taken this Ancestry DNA kit, that this person is my first cousin, this person is my first cousin. I've just talked to your sister. Your sister was the one that gave me your number. And I'm telling him all of this, and he was just, babe, baby, this sounds familiar, but I've got to put some thought into this. Yeah, Herman and I were very close, but I don't know who your mother could be. And he said, let me think on this. And he said, let me pray on this. And this was a Friday evening, and our phone call conversation was now about 4:15, 4:10. And so we're closing out my work day, and I'm doing this at work. And as soon as he said, let me pray on this, and I was like, are you a praying man? I'm a praying woman. Please, can we pray together for one moment, please? What church do you go to? What faith are you?
Right.
And he told me this particular night he was going to Greater Grace Temple in Detroit. Greater Grace Temple is my sister church. Greater Grace's pastor and my pastor grew up together, were ordained together, and my pastor was actually the diocesan bishop over him. I know Greater Grace well. We are the same faith. Can we say a prayer together? And then whatever God unlocks in your mind will be helpful to me. And we had that quick little prayer. I said, I won't hold you up. I'm going to Bible study. You go to Greater Grace for your event. And I was just prayerful and hopeful that God would unlock his mind. And very comforted in, at least I found an uncle. At least I found an aunt. And I may never find anybody else, but I found people. I found people that at least can start filling me in about their family.
Right.
And I was okay with that. And I hung up and I was kind of at peace that, yes, I've gotten somewhere. And we got to literally 4:55. We had shut off the lights at the office. The blinds were closed. We were kind of lingering at water cooler talk before we headed out. The phone rang, and we were all like, oh my gosh, who's calling at 4:55 on a Friday? My receptionist said, it says Felton. And everybody in my office knew of this journey. And she said, it says Felton. And I said, you guys go. I'll go take the call. So I pick up the phone call and I was like, hello? Yes. And he had to go back through. Is this so and so? Is this that? Did you just call me? Yes. Yes. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And he literally said, same way my aunt had said it. He said, baby, I am so sorry that I hung up with you. But as soon as I hung up, I knew exactly who you were, how you got here, and I know your whole story. I wasn't ready for the story at that moment. I wasn't ready. That just happened too fast. I wasn't ready in that moment. And I'm still like, I'm almost like, wait, pause. Can we go to church? Can we just go to church? But no, he explained that his brother was indeed the boyfriend of this woman who worked midnights at this restaurant, worked late nights at this restaurant, and her daughter was left in his care, and he went everywhere with this girl. He said he took this girl everywhere. And he said, I saw something happening that we started warning him about. He said, I saw them start holding hands. I saw them start putting his arm around her. And he said, I saw this little girl idolize this man. I saw him fall in love with her. And he said if they had been down south, he would have married that girl. Wait, what? Wait, my daddy's not a rapist?
Right, right,
And I'm like, did you, I'm thinking, did you really see what you were seeing?
right.
And he would explain to me how they would be together all the time. And he was sitting and his hand would be on her knee and they would sit side by side. And he said she loved him. And he said, I can't remember her name. When I remember her name, it's going to all fall together. He said, they stayed friends for years. Wait, what? That's another little piece. What? My parents are friends?
Right. And
And then
my
he's,
and my father was my grandmother's boyfriend.
yeah. And so my grandmother, who was very angry and upset that her boyfriend had bedded her daughter, had impregnated her daughter, and had created this child, and out of anger declared, I will not raise this child, we will not keep this child, and I'm going to press charges on you. And he explained that she initiated the charges, and because my mother was a minor, she had no say in it, and that my father was convicted of statutory rape of a minor, that my mother did have to go to court, and my uncle was in court when she sat in court and said, yes, this is my baby's father. And he was forced to sign my birth certificate before he left. He was aware of me. He did know my name. She was there. He was there. And he served a little under 3 years. And when he got out, they reconnected and they stayed friends until the day my father died.
Are you kidding me? I am speechless. I
Okay, I'm speechless and I'm trying to process everything that I've heard now versus what he's telling me that this one man is telling me. But he's telling me he was there. And these people, this is notes and this is caseworkers' notes, and this is the little bits and pieces that my mother is telling me and filling me in on, and and it's very fragmented, and it's very negative, and it's all coming from the adoption services, and of course, I'm now learning things are orchestrated to create a narrative that makes a child adoptable. But here's this man who's saying he was here, he was there, he witnessed it, he saw it, he saw love. He did not see rape, he did not see incest, he did not see abuse. He immediately said, I'm going to be the daddy you missed out on. And from that day, he was. He I loved that man as my daddy from the moment I met him. From the moment I met him. The day I pulled up at his driveway to meet him, he was pacing in his driveway, waiting for my car to pull up, and he ran to me the day I pulled up. But he could not remember my mother's name. so
Alicia.
So I went 6 months loving and bonding and being a Felton, and that was so awesome and so amazing and so comforting, and learning how I came to be and learning their family history, and I was good with that. But that mom that was 14, that I had fallen in love with the image of her, I had to find her. I needed to find her. She has to be there somewhere. She's only 14 years older than me. She has to be here. She's right in front of my face. If my uncle's right here and my cousins that raised me are all around them, and everyone is in the same community, everyone is in the same circle, I'm overlooking mom. She's here. She's in these notes. She's on this board. She's in these documents, and I'm just missing the clues, and I've got to find it. I'm so close. I know I am. I know I am. I know she's here, and I just don't know this is the one. And finally, through all that process that I went through Wayne County, and I am hiring a confidential intermediary, and that's the person who is assigned to you from the county to actually take your foster care notes and everything, and they have the name of my mom. They are now responsible to reach out to her, ask her if she would like to meet me. They've been hired to contact her. Would she like to meet me? If she does not, then I am told she does not. If she does, then that meeting is orchestrated. And if she is deceased, I now will receive access to her birth certificate and through the death certificate. And through her death certificate, I will receive her name. The day, it was also a Friday, when my confidentially intermediary contacted me, and she said, I've been assigned your case. I will start working immediately. You have provided more than enough for me to get started, and I will let you know as soon as I know something. And on Monday, I got an email, and I was thinking she just wants more information because she couldn't have found anything that quickly.
Right.
On Monday, the email started with, I regret to inform you that your mother is deceased. I have received a copy of her death certificate. I am putting it in the mail to you, but I thought you would like to see it before it comes in the mail, and so I have scanned it and have sent it to you. So in that email, she sent me my my mother's death certificate. I immediately clicked on that PDF, and the name that was on there was a name that was circled over and over and over in my notes. But the last name was different because her death certificate, she was now married, and she died as Alma Jean Pickett, where I'm seeing Pickett's, I'm seeing Atkinson. I wasn't seeing anything Felton, but I was seeing Alma Jean over and over, and I was seeing the name Jessica over and over. My daughter, my birth daughter, her name is Jessica. The only name I ever wanted to name my daughter was Jessica. And so seeing the name Jessica in my notes and documents always stuck out to me. Here's this Jessica that's connected to Alma Jean. Here's this Jessica connected to Alma Jean, connected to Herman. Here's Jessica that lived at the same spot as Herman. And I'm like, all those dots that I had been connecting. I knew there was some connection to Jessica. I knew there was some connecting to Alma Jean. And I kept circling those, mostly because it was my daughter's name. And it was calling to me.
Right. Naturally.
So the day I clicked on that PDF and saw my mother's name, Alma Jean Atkinson, was my birth mother. And I went on my Facebook groups, my DNA Angel groups, my Michigan Seeking and Searching groups, all my numerous groups that I had joined that were helping me on this search. And I finally just kind of felt like I've done it. I've solved the puzzle. And although my mother is deceased, okay, I can deal with that. But that day, I thought I was done. I know my parents now. I know their names. And I went on this group, and I made a purple background posting that said, I finally know who I am. I'm Sharon Denise Atkinson. daughter of Alma Jean Atkinson and Herman Felton. And I hit send. And in my heart, I was done.
Oh my
I
God.
had enough.
Right.
I had cried enough. I was tired enough. I had searched enough. I didn't need anything else. I had my validation. I was not the product of rape. I was not the product of incest. I know my parents loved each other. They stayed friends. They're both deceased. And this is who I am. And I hit send. And
So,
my Facebook page didn't start blowing up because I wasn't friends with anybody that was related to Alma Jean Atkinson. My daughter, my adopted daughter, started getting these messages. Hey, I think I know your mom. Hey, I think your mom is my aunt. Hey, would you please contact me? Hey, can I get your mom's number? And, my kids know the journey that I'm on. And my daughter is telling me, I'm getting these Facebook posts, and I'm like, there's no connection to you, to me. You're adopted.
right,
So you're a misconnected link.
right.
So it's not making sense that they're connecting to you. But the young man that was sending the messages was her age, and so he was reaching out to her as a bond in age. Maybe I'll get this girl to respond to me because we're the same age and we're cousins, and maybe if I can appease her, she can contact her mom. Now, this is the daughter that's pregnant. This is the daughter that's adopted. And now this time, this is 9 months later. She's about to give birth. She's very close to giving birth. She's still at work. She's still working. And I'm getting 911 calls from her. And her boyfriend, her baby's father, had also called me earlier, and he was just asking could I drop her off some food. So I'm getting 911 calls, and so I'm thinking, I got the message. I'm bringing your food.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like, okay, be patient.
Yeah.
And I come down the street to where she works, and she's standing in the middle of the street. And I can see she's on her cell phone. And then she sees my car, and she's shaking the phone, and she's like, and I'm like, what is this girl doing? Why are you out in the middle of the street? And I'm like, you clicking into mom mode. You're being extra. And I pull up, and she says, Mom, there's this boy on the phone that says he's your nephew, and he's been talking to me, and he has a whole bunch of information. And I was like, let me see. And so she shows me the phone, and he's this cute little handsome little 21 little. And I was like, that boy ain't trying to get a hold of me. That boy trying to get a hold of you, and you gonna be in trouble when your baby's father finds
Right.
out.